I should also point out that as part of this debate and discussion with the Senegalese sisters, I was trying to convince them that this oppressive clothing that they were wearing, it was really time to shed it and to start living in the 21st century and discover all there was to learn about fashion. And of course we started to have a really interesting discussion about well, we didn't call it modesty, actually. We would have a discussion about what it meant to be empowered as a woman. And one day they suggested, well, because of course their argument was that if you minimize the attention you place on your physicality, you create a public sphere in which people are more equal, because it's not about girls competing against girls for male attention. It's not about women competing for male attention. It's just minimizing the attention on the outwards so that we can focus our attention on what's substantive, what's real. And those are the values which really we should be putting all of our intellectual energy into. And those are the values that really should be dominating our public sphere. And so they gave me, as we say in French, un gage, what do you call it, like a dare. Why don't you try it out? Why don't you try it out? Wear not a full-on hijab. I used to wear a little bandana and some baggy clothes. And to be honest, it's not so much the bandana. And I'll be honest, the hijab for me, or the headscarf, or the khimar, or we know what we're talking about, the headscarf, is... and I've said this before, that the cherry on the cake, you totally have a cake if you don't have a cherry, but you don't have a cake if you just have a cherry. And so the idea was that actually minimize this attention on the body by wearing clothing that place more emphasis on, or force me to place more emphasis on myself as a person, and actually seeing the reaction that I got outside, having to work a lot harder for things. It was a lot easier before, actually. If you didn't have the right buffet, just flustered your eyelids and gave a little, smile, flick of the hair, and suddenly you could get on the bus for free. It doesn't work that way anymore, unless the bus driver's Muslim. So I think it was a really interesting experience to realize that actually if you minimized the importance that we attach to female sexuality as a tool of expression in the public sphere, you had to work a lot harder on yourself as a person. You couldn't get away with things a lot easier. You actually had to be nice to get things done. It wasn't enough to just use your wild charms. You actually have to work at things and be a nice person and stick to your word, because these are the things that matter ultimately and are going to, you want me to end? Got it. That are going to help people, or that are going to make sure that people then respond to you in the way that you want them to respond. And for me, that was a very empowering journey to go through as a woman. It was one which I knew, even if I didn't commit to Islam, I was very interested in the notion of minimizing the importance of the female body as one of the roots for our expression in the public sphere. I really took to the idea that actually, from a feminist perspective, we have a lot more to gain from minimizing the attention to that and focusing on things that are much more substantive in our public interactions. And of course we know in Islam the hadith that says God does not judge according to your bodies and appearance, but scans your hearts and looks into your deeds. Well, for me that's a very empowering way of looking at the world. And actually Islam is very much about that. Forget about your riches, forget about your background, forget about the way you look. Ultimately, what you take with you on that day is the good deeds that you've put before you. And there's nothing more equalizing than that. So I wanted to talk about a whole load of other things. I have a quote here that says the problem is the 98% of men who give us 2% of men a bad name. I wanted to talk about that, but maybe we can keep that for the Q&A. Q&A, someone. Okay, thank you. Thank you. All good that came from this is from Allah, and all errors are my own. Thank you for your time.